Not bad.
We are live.
We're live. This is Senate Appropriations, April 8th. We're going through the fiscal year 26 budget. In the language, they end in, maybe in the one times? No, I can't remember. Is language about VPIC. And so when we were going through it, we weren't sure, because we didn't take testimony on this before the House had put it in. So we wanted to have VPIC folks in to explain what it is, so we can consider it with having full knowledge of what it is. Is it both in the one time?
Did you do this?
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
PCE?
Or is it would, oh no, it would be in
There it is.
But it would be in if you go to the base. And so Mr. Glonka is on the screen. I don't, Eric, if you want to sit here, that's fine. I don't know who's gonna start the discussion.
Tom, why don't you kick it off?
Okay, thank you very much for having us, Senator Perchik, and welcome. You know, it's been a number of years since we've been in your committee, but I want to thank you for hearing us for VPIC. As you are aware, VPIC was spun off as a standalone entity from the Treasurer's Office from Act 75 that I think happened about 3 years ago. And since that time, we submit our budget independently. So this is our third budget request, and it is evolving, and it's been evolving for the past couple of years as we've determined, well, what we need to have as a standalone entity. I'm pleased to report that we continue to make progress in our efforts to professionalize VPIC and make VPIC a really top-notch investment arm of the state of Vermont. We currently have about a little less than $7 billion, not counting this recent market sell-off. So we've done, I think, a really good job, a large part to the staff that we've brought in, including Eric, who's sitting at the table with you. I'll give you some highlights. Last fiscal year, we made 10.29%, which was 3 percentage points above the assumed rate of return. 5-year number, we're at 7.9%, which was again over the assumed rate of return. And our 15-year number is approaching over 8%. For a 15-year number. And I think that's really impressive given where we were at just about 5 years ago. I took over VPIC in 2016 as part of the Treasurer's Office with Treasurer Pierce. And we've really made an effort to professionalize the internal staff. So the decisions were really made here in Vermont instead of really farming out our decisions to Wall Street. In that 10-year time, we were rated this past year as the #1 private equity performing fund in the country. And I think that's in large part to Eric, who's sitting right there at the table with you. And so I'm really proud of the team that we've brought in place. And this budget request includes, it's the traditional budget request up 3% from the governor's office, but we've added an amount to address the compensation study that the legislature asked us to perform as part of Act 75. In that report, you'll notice that one of our key risks for the state pension is that we have key man risk. And if we were to lose some of our key employees, we could be at a significant disadvantage. And so one of the recommendations in that plan was to, over 5 years, gradually increase the salaries of our key employees to approach 50th percentile. For comparison, I think we're at about the 10th percentile right now, so we're a long ways off. But we've been working with the governor's administration to create an executive pay plan. So there's 2 components to this. One of which is to gradually increase on an annual basis. And the second piece is to make 2 of our employees exempt employees, and both of which are requests that are in this current year's legislation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric and then answer any questions that may have. But thank you for having us today.
Thank you. For the record, Eric Henry, Chief Investment Officer of the Vermont Pension Investment Commission. The only thing I would add is that the return numbers that Tom mentioned are all well above median. So when he says we've improved our performance, years prior we were lagging our peers. In the last 5 years at least, we are well above median in terms of our investment returns.
Okay. So it seems like in the language, which I just found, on page 53 of the bill, if you're following along, he wants to do another compensation report, as Mr. Gonka just said, didn't you already do?
We have, what we would be doing under this legislation would be actually developing a compensation philosophy and developing an implementation plan to implement the recommendations from the 2022 Mercer compensation study report. We don't envision doing another study at this point, but rather an implementation plan for this one.
Okay. And then another question I've had is this something, so you're just doing an implementation plan, you're not doing another comparison of other states or?
Correct.
That was already done.
There would likely be some updating of that benchmarking in the implementation plan, but the benchmarking has already been done. Those numbers will have changed since middle of 2022, so we would likely update those, but it would not be a full-blown comprehensive study.
And so the House added $250,000. Like there's your 3% increase, but then there's an additional $250,000 that the House add. Can you explain how that would be used?
So the 250,000 would be about a fourth of the gap in compensation between where staff currently is and moving us toward median. The Mercer study recommended we take a 3 to 4 year approach in getting that compensation to the median range. We've taken a more conservative 4 year time frame into consideration. We've been, again, as Tom mentioned, we've been working with the administration for several years to begin to talk about ways to implement this. And at this point, we're down to unclassifying positions, making them exempt, so that we can then work with the administration to implement an exempt pay plan. That 250 would be used to fund.
You can't do that if they're classified?
Correct.
But then you're part of the collective bargaining.
You're part of
in the classification system.
Correct.
So now you're classified in your current system?
3 of my team are classified. I'm the only exempt. And we would be looking at making the others on the team exempt as investment professionals, because there's simply no equivalent or appropriate category in the civil service system.
So it would be U3, U4.
Correct.
Mr. Gonka gets paid some small amount for being the chair, but this doesn't affect that board chair position.
No, this isn't reflecting that. It's just mainly for the deputy CIO position. And I'll give you an example. There's a tremendous interest in our deputy CIO, particularly as a CIO in a neighboring New England state. And the offers that they were giving her, and this is for another state pension plan, were almost double what she's making here in Vermont. So we're trying to figure out a way to normalize our plan and get us more on par with our peer group in New England region. And that's part of the reason for it, because I think our staff is really the key reason why we've done as well as we have over the past number of years. And I'd hate to have to recruit that, or particularly at the lower levels. I think we'd have difficulty replacing the positions.
Unfortunately, I don't have the copy of the bill in front of me. Can you give me a sense of what people are making now and what the median would be?
Sure. So the deputy CIO currently, Tom mentioned she's being heavily recruited. Her compensation is just over $100,000. I know that she has been approached with offers approaching $300,000. So we're not looking at tripling her compensation, certainly, but moving closer to median so that we have a shot at retaining folks.
And median would be what?
Median for that position in the Mercer report was around 275 to 250,000. The report that was 2 years ago.
So we would be looking to raise it from 100 to 275?
Probably to I would guess a 225 range for the deputy position over a period of 4 years.
And what about the other positions?
Similar, the other position as analyst, essentially operating as a deputy CIO, would be in a similar situation. His comp's right around her level, and we'd be looking at that level of increase. The fourth person on the team is an accountant. We think she's adequately compensated at this point.
And her salary?
Just under 100,000, 90 something.
Oh, that's the total cost.
That is the salary. Total cost would be an additional 25 or 30% on top of that for pension contributions and insurance.
It is that the same for your position, not to put you on the spot about
Correct.
it. But because your If I remember looking at the report quickly, like your position was also under the median.
My comp is currently right around 180.
Okay.
Median for CIO positions 5 to 7 figures. Again, we're not, certainly not suggesting anything like that. Really trying to get the mechanism in place so that we can recruit and maintain talent in the event we have some turnover.
And one of the concerns I've heard is that this would put this person as the highest paid person in the state government. Is that true?
More than the governor.
That I don't know the answer to.
Well, the governor,
Could be more than the governor.
200.
But I think there's some doctors that might make somewhere up near there, but I don't know if that matters. I think.
I do,
Bruce?
I do want to register I'll call it a philosophical difference. So I come from the world of academia. I work at UVM, and there are departments which for years have made a very similar argument that they could leave academia and go into the private sector and make X. And so therefore their academic salary should reflect that ability. But obviously they've chosen the academic lifestyle for other reasons. So I don't know how sympathetic I am to that particular argument or the thought that our 8% return or 7+ return would be impacted heavily if we lost a person and had to recruit a person. It does seem like an extremely ambitious goal to raise somebody's salary from 100 to 275 or 280,000. So I just want to register that bit of skepticism. I know there's been a study. I know that the House has weighed on this already, but just to clarify.
So 2 points, if I may. First, our approach in working with the administration on the exempt pay plan, I think we're putting in place the right level of control in terms of perceptions of compensation. I think the bigger issue is that this is not something staff has been pushing for. This is something that the commission has recognized as a significant risk. Looking at me, I think specifically, and recognizing that 5-10 years from now, I probably won't be here, and understanding that it will probably take 5+ years to fix this, so that when I do leave, they're in a situation to recruit the right caliber of person to the position.
You know, and just to be clear, Bruce's point that the compensation is about other pension systems that they're paying, not the private
Other
sector.
public pension
Private
systems,
sector,
correct.
even
Right. There are significantly higher benchmarks in corporate world and particularly foundations and endowments. The Mercer study benchmarked us specifically against other public pension plans.
I think that's helpful to understand that it's part of, so the 250 only gets you part of way on your 4-year.
Begins to implement over a number of years.
Oh, this was my question. Do any states do bonuses like that you would see more in the private sector about that are tied to returns? And did you or the board consider that at all?
That's becoming the norm. That was one of the Mercer study's recommendations, to put not only move us towards median, but put compensation at risk to align interests. We wanted to be realistic in our pursuit of legislation and didn't want to scare anybody away by having too big of a proposal. So as we think about this, it's baby steps towards a more comprehensive and market-based compensation system at some point in the future.
And Mr. Galanka, is that board looking at that as
no, we're not looking at that at this point. We weren't interested in that. We really wanted to get off the 10th percentile. Our goal in this first year is to work with the administration to come up with an executive pay plan and then gradually move up. We understand that it's going to be very difficult to get to the 50th percentile, and we don't have any intention at this point of adding any type of incentive pay plan at this point. But there'll be plenty of opportunities over the next 4 or 5 years to figure out, well, next year at this time, hopefully we'll be at 15th percentile or 16th percentile, and then maybe the year out will be at 25th percentile. I think that's kind of the incremental approach we're looking at doing, and that's what this 250,000 will allow us to start the process.
And this money comes from basically the pensions.
Correct.
So it's like an internal service fund almost, right?
It does. And I will argue that most pension funds, in terms of compensation and admin costs, costs about, I think, about 12 basis points overall throughout the country. Ours is down at 4 basis points, and this doesn't even it stays around the same even with the 250. So we're significantly lower cost structure from an internal staffing perspective than any other pension plan in the area.
Is that the lowest cost of any pension of any state?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't have that data, but I know we're in the lower tier in terms of cost because we don't have the staff.
Right.
There's one other plan that might be around our level, and that's Nevada. But they don't do much, if anything, in private equity or liquid assets.
Okay, any other questions about this? So it's the proposal, the $250,000. I guess we look at it not as state taxpayer debt money, but that's $250,000 not going into the pension total pool.
Right, we think of it as investment management expenses and spending it here in Vermont instead of outsourcing it to Wall Street.
Which is what we used to do.
That's correct.
So we used to.
Oh, correct, yes, yes, we've significantly cut back the role, particularly of active managers in the public market space. We've reduced the level of investment management fees, and more importantly, we've improved our returns net of all those fees. When you think about what's happening in the public market space, when we have active managers charging upwards of 1% of assets under management a year, very difficult for those folks to outperform that fee rate. So by indexing a large portion of our public exposure, we eliminated that drag of higher fees. Where we are paying fees is in places like private equity that Tom mentioned we've been recognized as the #1 plan in the country for this.
Yeah, no, and it's good to see those returns. That's helpful. That makes our job easier. Sure. Any other questions? Pensions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you very much.
All right. Directora Davis, bienvenido.
Gracias.
Vamos a hacer todo en español.
Okay.
We're not going to do it in Spanish, but we could.
You all use the cart services form. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, are you ready?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Susanna Davis. I'm the Executive Director of Racial Equity for the state. Thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you a bit about our Ideal Vermont initiative. I'll be very brief. I don't come with visuals or long slide decks. Ideal Vermont is pretty simple. It's a municipal level leadership program that brings municipal leaders together as a learning community to participate in, yes, educational opportunities, but also tangible action that's going to help move equity and inclusion at the local level in Vermont. IDEAL is an acronym. It stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Action, and Leadership. That A for action is capital, because it's a very strong belief in our office that if we're going to invest our time and our tax dollars into something, it should yield positive results. And so we want to make sure that we're really moving the needle on equity. And so we carefully created an initiative that we believe is designed to do just that. It began in 2022, I believe. It seems as if my math is wrong, but I guess it really has been that long. And it currently has a cohort of 14 member municipalities. We, of course, have been eager to do another push for recruitment, but wanted to be sure that the funding would be secured.
And were they self-selecting, like you put out a call and they?
Yes, and that's an important piece of it. They were self-selecting because what we didn't want was performative participation or non-participation. So it is a self-selecting group of people who are really willing to be committed. Part of the way that we helped to discern that was we did a lot of listening sessions, info sessions. We spoke to everyone from select boards to local grassroots organizations to town managers, town administrators, you name it. And we ended up with a cohort that is from every region of the state. We've got the Kingdom represented, we've got the Four Corners, certainly Central Vermont. So we think of it as a very eclectic group of people who have a variety of different challenges, different levels of diversity in their own communities, different levels of funding access in their own communities, different styles of governance slightly. But what unifies them is the fact that they have committed, their leadership has committed to wanting to move equity at the local level. I know that we're a state level office. The reason that it was so important for us to participate in this initiative is because so much of the inequity that we experience in day-to-day life is hyper-local. Think of policing, education. These are things that certainly the state can and does influence, but without that participation at the local level from people who are really in positions of authority in communities, then it tends to be a top-down, more paternalistic approach. So having that lateral and peer-led leadership was really important to us. So, of course, bolstering Ideal at its foundation, it is a learning community. And so we provide a lot of educational opportunities for the cohort. We purchase materials for them. We bring in speakers, not just people from around the state, but also people from the national stage to be able to help provide them insight into how they can adjust, tweak, or simply be inspired to try new things. We also connect the member municipalities with technical assistance from state agencies. It's one thing for a state agency to say, we're open for business for anybody who wants to approach us about a program or a grant. It's another thing if we can give a warm handoff to local leadership and say, this is an initiative or a grant or an opportunity that should matter to you. Here's why it matters. Here's how it advances equity in your community. Here's a colleague of ours specifically who can help you move that. That's especially of value to our smaller communities, those who perhaps have 2 people working in the town offices, not necessarily a larger staff. So that connection to technical assistance has also been really helpful. Ideal Vermont also has partnership with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns and the Vermont Community Foundation. Both partners have provided us with more opportunities for learning platform, and the Vermont Community Foundation has also generously offered a fast track for grants under their Inclusive and Welcoming Communities grant, specifically for Ideal Vermont cohort members. Let's see, some of the things that we're most proud of that the program has been able to realize include, for example, one of our communities up in the Kingdom, town of Glover, has an extremely active, very, very passionate community coalition. And the town was recently able to open a sensory park. I don't know how many of you have been able to visit. Beautiful space. It's an outdoor space that's designed to be accessible to people of various different learning styles and abilities. We were made aware that before it even got named on Google Maps, we had people from Canada crossing over just to come and check it out because they heard about it from word of mouth. That was an opportunity that was presented to the community because of connections that they had made through us, through Ideal Vermont. So in very concrete ways, they were able to secure funding from an entity to build something that drew people in, including across an international line, that was inclusive and that really did serve the spirit of what I think Vermont is trying to achieve, particularly with its reliance on things like tourism. I'll pause here. I have a lot of really wonderful things to say about the program, but I recognize you all have specific questions.
How long has it been going on? Is this like the 2nd year?
Just over 2 years, actually. And so the funding that we did have had originally been earmarked, I guess, in 2021 to begin in fiscal 22. That was $220,000 to cover us for 2 years. So of course that amount is going to cover us for a full biennium, I suppose. And we are in our 3rd year now. I should also note that funding pot, of course it is for Ideal Vermont, and as part of Ideal Vermont, we offer an annual conference that we do make available to members of the public. And I could probably fill entire stacks, reams of paper with the positive feedback and good action steps that we've seen from people who've attended our conferences. So the reach that it has had and that this funding pool has had has really paid off for us in terms of being able to get people energized and active in this space.
Did you testify in the House?
Did not.
I don't want to put you on the spot, so you don't have to answer this question, but do you know why they took this money out of the budget?
No, we don't. I suspect that it was just that they were looking for opportunities to cut costs. And we were a little perhaps taken aback, I suppose, that the funding didn't make it out of the House version of the budget. But I think that with what's happening at the national level, and with the fact that so many of our communities here often feel left out or unheard or ignored, I think that it's probably more important than ever for us to be able to demonstrate that we're willing to invest tangibly in something that the state claims as a value. And so, regardless of how that happens coming out of the House, we think that this is something that makes sense to make sure it remains in.
Any other questions? Stevens? I think that's helpful because I hadn't heard about I know about your office, but I hadn't heard about the program, so that's helpful to know how it goes, how it went. Sorry to hear that they didn't have you in and that took some money out of that.
We still have an opportunity to fix that.
What was that money, by the way? Again,
220,000.
220 for 2 years.
So but it's a one-time.
Correct.
one time for 2 years.
It'd be 1,180.
Because but is it not for expenses to run the program by the staff of your office doing it, or are you hiring other people?
No, all of the labor hours are in-house. So that money solely goes to administering the program, expenses related to that, and of course those related to the annual conference, which is open to the public.
Good. Okay, when is it this year? When do you do the conference?
At the end of October. We have had speakers including Baratunde Thurston, Adrienne Marie Brown, Loretta J. Ross. So we are really, really excited to be able to bring more of those national level speakers to Vermont and to be able to, we just like giving. We just like to give things away. And so as much as we can, we want to do that.
That's the same as appropriations.
Yeah, we described us to a T.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
If it is helpful, please don't hesitate. If there's any materials that we can send along, we're happy to do so. Thank you all.
Okay, gracias. Okay, now we can go back to our, what are we calling it? The web report? We gotta come up with a new name.
Have a new name.
That's part of the task. If you get a new name, you get a gold star. If your name sticks.
Right.
I know. You're the one that said that we always do it, so.
We do always do it.
So I think since we don't have page numbers, on B700, natural resources. Mayor Watson's
Yes.
area.
So just to preface this, so we received a memo from Secretary Moore, which I think I passed on to you. I didn't pass it on to the committee, but just about the unfunded, I'm not sure if it's right to call it, yeah, it is called unfunded mandates. ANR has a lot of work on their plate, and shockingly, not enough money to do it all. And so it's outlined in this memo. There were a few things that I wanted to highlight, and we can do that maybe as it comes up.
Yeah.
Here, though I'm not entirely sure where some of these things would fit. So maybe it's just
you have
easier.
dollar numbers? It's more like the part that I read was more like this whole effort is a lot of work. But maybe later on I didn't get through.
Yeah, so the beginning part is just outlining some of the major work that they've done, and then the later part numbers the work that needs to be done. There's a paragraph sort of describing it, and then what the funding gap is for. She's got
A number of positions.
Yeah, she's got 10 different things listed. So. And I'm not, obviously we can't do all of that. But there are some that I wanted to at least highlight along the way. And I guess I'll highlight, since I'm still talking.
Yeah.
I'll highlight a few of these that are on my radar anyway. So one is, so particularly with the Flood Safety Act that we passed last year, there were 50 new positions that were established, but there was not enough funding for all of those. I believe there was something like this, enough funding for something like 11 positions. So they're short 4, and if I recall, one was from, one's for dam safety, one's for wetlands, and 2 for river corridors. And I think all of those are important. That would be a pretty huge ask, but I'm particularly interested in the dam safety aspect of it, since it is like a health and safety issue. So that's one of the, I would say it's pretty directly related. And then the others that I want to highlight are with the Act 250 modernization. They could use more support staff in terms of the rulemaking that's going along with Tier 3. I'm not sure that let me back up. There's also a related request to that with the Land Use Review Board. So just want to think about how we are modernizing Act 250. That I just want to flag that as an issue. It's both an issue for ANR as well as for the Land Use Review Board.
Just got a quick question here.
Yeah.
Is there someplace we could find this, or I feel like I'm kind of caught between. Does
Sorry,
Al
I can
have this,
forward.
You could forward,
Oh, you don't have it.
I think you were copied on, but maybe not.
I don't know that I copied Al.
Okay.
I think I copied Amy, but I can.
And I think it would be,
to you.
it's good to highlight these things, but and I think your point is like, you're not sure which of the sections in the 700s.
Right.
Stop and say
Some of
this
them.
is.
Right, which is why I was gonna do it all together, but I'm happy to do it as we go, if that is
Yeah,
better.
and I think as we go, but if we close out a section and then later we say, actually, we got a proposal for a position for this section.
Okay.
It's not the end, it's not like it's closed. with an
Forever.
iron lock.
Okay,
But then we will, once we get through the web reports, we will go through the one-times.
yeah,
So some of those might be
one-time
one-time
Yeah.
requests,
Mhm.
and then we could put them on that list.
Okay, fair enough. So just for the administration part, don't know if this is the right place for this, but there was a request for an additional attorney to deal with potential litigation that is related to both the Climate Super Fund as well as anything, upcoming that might get litigated.
An additional attorney, because
Yeah.
they have their own attorney.
Looking for an additional.
Okay. Yeah. no,
I'll stop there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the admin section.
I don't know either. That was my best guess.
She might know if you
Mhm.
question.
That's true.
that. Yeah, or their budget person, like if the secretary doesn't know, just she could ask the budget person, like which of the sections would they have that attorney in?
Mhm.
Okay, anything else about that B700, the
Nope.
administration? Okay. Good note there. So the property tax assessment,
Nope.
nothing there, so. I'm going to.
We're checking that off.
Yeah, checking that one off, checking off B700 as well, but with this caveat about this other position. Fish and Wildlife.
Nope.
Wasn't there wasn't a Fish and Wildlife, or was in there one time? No, maybe I'm just. Well, if there is a one time, we'll get to it. Oh, they had, Fish and Wildlife did have that request for the supplement funding to get them to a new funding source, because the
Oh, yes.
hunting license.
Mhm.
So I assume that's just in here, would just be in the web report number. I saw you nodding your head, so I figured you knew your.
I was thinking that, it won't be in the web, no, it'll be in the web report to the extent there's a one-time appropriation from the Fish and Wildlife Fund to deal with it, but there is a transfer being made from the general fund to the Fish and Wildlife Fund for,
For addition. But there's also
help them transition.
Some bridge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so there's an interdepartmental transfer, but that wouldn't necessarily, it could be part of that, because this is 1.5, and it was more like 180,000.
It's 185,000, and it won't be in the interdepartmental transfer, it'll it'll be like in the D
Oh, okay,
100
that's a whole
section,
other
it'll be a
section.
whole different
It
section.
wouldn't be in the Fish and Wildlife's budget.
No,
Okay. And is it a base?
No.
It's a one. Okay, so we'll close out 702. 703, Parks and Rec. Okay, close out that. Forestry was the apparatus, that was in Forest and Parks, but I'm
Wouldn't
not
be a
sure.
base.
Parks and Recreation, right?
I
No,
don't know what section that would be in.
it's under DPS.
706.
You're talking about the $275,000 for that's under the fire
It's in
division.
Forest and Parks, though. That's who they were, that's who
Is
we
it?
were talking
Okay.
about.
It's in the
Base.
one time.
Yeah, it's not in the
That's
base.
just in the one time.
One time.
Yeah, so we wouldn't keep bringing that up, but we don't need to because it's not in. Okay, so we can close out forestry, state parks, close that out.
Yep.
706, land administration, recreation.
Yep.
Access roads.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty tough section.
That is. Environmental conservation management support service.
Well, these are the places where I'm,
It could be the attorney, could be in this. department.
yeah, it could be, could be true, that may be where an attorney would go. And then if,
Did you want to leave this section open for something
yeah,
else?
let's leave that section open for
Okay.
the potential attorney.
D79 is open,
Mhm.
but there's not, it would just be that attorney, same attorney position, there isn't something else that you had. for
I don't think
this?
so.
Okay. Air and waste management. Okay. Office of Water Programs.
This is where I might flag, potential flood safety related positions if we want to come back to that.
Okay. You know, are those listed out in the secretary's email?
Let me see. There are details, and this is still opening, but
Okay.
good look.
Somewhere.
It's not, yes.
Flood safety.
Yes, it is that one.
Is it just one position or does that section?
No, it's
So
four
they
more
don't,
positions.
they don't say, this is
Okay.
from conversation that I had with the secretary about, that they're short the funding for 4 positions.
Okay. All dealing with flood,
All related to the flood safety act.
which I think in the bill that you probably worked on at GovOps, there was the request for more positions that we did. I remember correctly,
For the response to, the government response to,
the 23. bill.
yeah,
That's, at least that's kind of what I remember, that there was more positions than
That could
they
be.
ended up getting.
yeah. Don't recall.
The new land use review board,
Yes, so they're hoping for, one second here. So they are hoping to get, one more position into base, for them, but there's maybe some flexibility there. They have some, temporary allocation, for money that they might be wanting to move into base. So it might be good to leave it open to talk about what needs to be temporary and what can be shifted to base.
okay? So that gets us to the end of natural resources. And we can move on to commerce and community development, the 800s. So the agency, I don't know whose section ACD is in, your favorite one.
Lovely.
So commerce and community development, administration, we can close that one.
Looks normal.
You can close that.
In economic development, there are some changes the House made. This is they eliminated the governor's request for the International Business Office.
Which is in Montreal. And, hang on just a second. So there are two pieces to this. So this is a total of 350. There are two pieces to this. They wanted to expand in 801. There's 150 that I think goes directly towards the office in Montreal. They wanted to expand to do stuff in Asia and Europe, and for a total of 350. I sat down with the chair of economic development, and they're adamant that the office in Montreal be maintained.
Okay.
And what the House did would cut everything. They think this is important. On that economic development committee's list, they gave me a list with 3 stars and 2 stars and no stars. This got a 2-star, but the office in Montreal, they want left over.
Okay, so that would be at least a 305.
Right, that would be, I think what they said is it's 150 to maintain the office in Montreal. But I don't have exact numbers, but it's because it's built into that 350.
Okay.
Not 305.
Well,
it's
it's 350 if you add that and a 45.
Mhm.
But I think what I heard from everybody is maintain that office in Montreal. This is a terrible time for us to be cutting an office in Montreal.
Just thinking.
So the personal office is 305 and the operating office is 45.
Yeah.
Everything I had,
Now.
So this is an example, Amy, is what we were talking about before, is like within economic development, there's no way by looking at this document, how much was spent on this office last year.
right, and this is what the agency gave me, this is what economic development gave me, and it doesn't break out the 350. But in the conversations I had, it was what they basically said, what I heard them say was 150. What I would recommend is that we don't eliminate the office in Montreal, given everything that's going on. Even maybe my lights will go out if I do that.
But you're not necessarily saying we gotta put back the whole 305 or the whole 350.
I'm saying it got stars from economic development. It wasn't a 3-star, it was a 2-star. If when we came to balance, I would come back and I would, it's an area where we might wanna reconsider, but we definitely don't wanna do away with the office in Montreal.
Yeah. So that, maybe we could try to find out what the
Exact amount is.
Yeah, what's the total minimum on that?
Yep.
Like, what's the absolute minimum?
And that, but I think they said it was 150.
Okay.
Question,
Yeah.
so do we know why it's split out into these two,
One's
45,000?
personnel, one's operating.
Oh, okay.
So maybe
We'd have to break out what was personnel.
maybe operating is like the rent, but then there's 300,000 people costs.
Right.
And what I don't know is that this is an increase. Like, did the governor ask for 350 more, or did he Or is this part of just a funded again?
It looks like it.
Looks like,
Oh, wait,
Oh, governor's recommendation.
Well, this was a base cut.
yeah, so I guess this would be it, so this would then, the governor's request is 350K addition to the base for this program, but it's additional to the base of economic development vision, or, but we don't know what it was, how much they were spending in other years, which is a difficult part of just looking at the web report. But, okay, so we'll leave it open. Housing, community development, more changes.
So we have a very big package, and we have that whole bill that came from
Yeah.
economic development.
Yes,
I'm a little bit, unsure of what to say about that, and where our priorities will lie in the overall and how much money that we have in all of this. So the manufactured homes, was a total of,
150?
2 million, that the House left in. And, they cut 150 offering the 2 million. And this fixes up manufactured homes.
This is the VHIP thing.
The VHIP piece, was, let's see,
We put it to one-time funding.
the governor recommended in the manufactured homes 2 million, for that. And with grants of 150 for one, permanent position, tied to this. The recommendations that came over from Commerce didn't have any positions in, and I heard throughout talking to the agency, there isn't the people over there to do the work that we're asking, in it. So we have to deal, they asked for one, position in this area. The House didn't authorize the position. And the 150 you see is a reduction offering the 2 million that the governor had in base.
For the 2-1, he had 2 million and 150. This part
Well, he had two,
yeah, 2.15, and they reduced it
Yep.
to 2.
Yep.
And I assume that program has been in base for some time. I don't know how long it's been around.
They wanted 3 positions that were, the governor's budget had 3 permanent.
they have one
Just for-
position
For
here.
mirroring?
There are 2, that we're gonna see, in,
Yeah.
you're gonna see 2 that are in, the Vermont, Housing Improvement Program. They asked for 2 there. And it was a total of 3 positions.
Well, currently, they only have 3 permanent employees, including the division.
In the whole division,
In the
that's
whole
all they
division.
have. And that, what they said was that 3 positions can't do this. And so they asked for 3 more in total, in 802. 1 to deal with manufactured homes, 1 to, or 2 to deal with the Vermont Housing Improvement, Program funds. In that area.
So was there 1 position for the manufactured home improvement program?
One there and then 1 in, VHIP.
Yeah, the VHIP.
Yep, the VHIP.
So 4 million
The 4 million
was for the grants.
was in the, VHIP program. where they made the reduction, out of base funding.
Right.
And this was a 3-star, the highest priority for commerce.
Indeed.
But
I think VHIP is really important.
that's the one where we're doing stuff for $40,000 a unit,
Right, more for
and
affordable.
50. And we did, I think, VHIP, I think that was like 250 units that they did.
And I'm in general agreement, I'm not sure it needs to be in base. It was one of the discontent things about the administration's letter about the House proposal where they said
VHIP did 90 to 100 units.
where they said, don't increase money to the base, but you should put this in the base. So,
Well, I think we have to do some positions here. They can't continue with just 3 positions and run all of these programs.
and the 3 positions did both the manufacturing and the vehicle.
Yep,
But they have 3 now?
they have 3 now. They want 3 more between all of this. And I would say they need at least a couple positions.
Okay. Well, I have a question about whether it should be in base or one time. So I'm gonna leave that open.
Yep.
Does it matter what they accomplish, what they can accomplish? If it's in base or one time, that's my question. They can
Not to
do,
me.
they said they can do, in VHIP, they can do 10 times as much as other programs with the same amount of money. But I don't know whether it matters where it lives. It just means that next year.
Right, we have to look at it.
I will say VHIP was a 3-star. Of the housing pieces that the Commerce Committee said VHIP was a 3-star. The brownfields that got cut here were a 3-star. In that, and I think that was in one time. And then there's a $15,000 housing study for developing disabled supports, and that 15,000 they wanted in.
That's a one time.
That's a one-time.
Okay. Well, I like your 3-star system. You know who else is? North 4-star.
Yeah, but he's a sucker.
General.
Okay, so we're keeping that open. We're moving on to tourism and marketing. This is, the House took out 350 row relocation outreach costs.
So they, this was one that apparently what we do is we get people here, and these are workers that have been recruited by businesses. These are grants out to economic development organizations and the Chamber of Commerce. And what they do is they help these people that have been recruited settle in communities. It's paying for physical stuff around it. And some of these people are, I think it's across the board, but these are grants that go out to our local development organizations and help them as a recruitment tool get people here. It's not money that we hand to the individuals, it's money we help to get them planted here. And this was a cut to base, and they were adamant that they needed money here to help.
They being the agency or
The
they
agency
being
was, and
committee?
this is not money that the agency gets the money and grants it out to economic development in that. And so it's helped getting people planted within the community. Some of it may be moving here, some of it may be all sorts of things like that.
There's still $700,000 for that. I'm just looking at the amount of money.
Well, that's what I wondered.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is we don't know, because there is $1 million of grants. They cut out 350, but we don't know if all the rest of that is grow program or they do other grants. Like, I don't know, probably tourism marketing doesn't do a lot of granting, so this could be the total amount. But in FY 25 was 3.9 million, so they must have had some other federal money or something. Maybe that was around supporting tourism after the pandemic. So these are the kind of questions that I don't know, that's frustrating to do this, because we don't know if the program is $1 million program and they're cutting 350, or is it a 350 program they're cutting to zero? That seems like we should know, right?
Yeah, we don't know that.
You know?
Well, so I just looked into their Vantage report, and their competitive marketing capacity grow grants is $1 million. So.
Okay, so it is so they cut a third or so. Okay, well, we'll leave it open. That'll be part of our figuring out. The Vermont Council on the Arts.
I think that's
That's okay, yeah.
Although I did see
809.
the humanities, that's somewhere else probably in here, but
It's coming up.
talk about that later. Okay, symphony orchestra.
Who had that one?
But do I want to add something to that?
You wanna join the orchestra?
I'm good.
I think they're one of the few examples of a direct appropriation to a non-governmental organization. So when people say, oh, we don't do that, you can say, oh, what about symphony? No? Then oh, yeah, I forgot about that
All
one.
the tuba players.
Only.
All two. Vermont Historic Society.
Yep, I have that too. Yep.
Housing Conservation Board. Is that you? It was Ann, then we switched it away from Ann.
Oh.
Or we gave it to Wes.
Yep, you did.
He gets everything.
Didn't
Okay. I need help.
So the House had just moved the LAOB's money to the base.
Well, but the House did add 5 million,
In one time?
I think so, yes.
Okay, well,
And that was there.
that was part of it.
Yep.
Does anybody object to this being moved to the
No.
base?
No.
If not, I will close it out and just say it's okay. to
Okay.
move.
And then, the extra money for them would come in one place.
Yeah, BHCB at 5 now, right? Okay, the Humanities Council,
And I would say that anything extra we would find there, our Economic Development Committee would support.
where, for BHCB?
BHCB.
Yeah, right. The Vermont Humanities Council, I just saw an article that they lost, their risk of losing all their federal funding. Okay, have you talked to them?
No, I was just gonna say I have to reach out to them because I just heard that too.
I wonder how sure that is or what they're doing. So I assume we can close this out, but maybe we'll keep it open in case we hear back from them, yeah?
Yeah.
Which one's that, 812?
Keep that open. So that's all for funds for community development. Transportation, gee, do we know anybody on the transportation committee?
Yeah, aren't you a reporter? I think you got designated by the chair.
Oh, no. I have to be careful. Finance administration, I don't think there's anything on there. I don't know what the $50,000 grant,
I don't think we can do any of this.
this is all gonna be in the.
This is all gonna be dictated by the TDEC.
And that's the way we deal with transportation, is we just accept the whole
Wait
bill.
for it to be plugged in.
Although, not in here, the transportation issue is
EMV,
not the,
it's in here too.
the $1 million for them, but I don't want to come out of general fund.
The $1 million to that.
Yeah.
What?
I may wanna make a claim on part of that $1 million.
Well, okay, well, as long as it's in the general fund. I mean, it goes to general fund expenditure. But you want to expend it on another transportation.
I wanna spend, what the request will be is, we're gonna take testimony of transportation, Thursday and Friday. And we're gonna take it from public transit about medical transport.
Oh, yeah.
With
And-
Senate Health and Welfare.
And Senate Health and Welfare is going to join us. And part of the issue they're having is that we're, and you know this, but I'm saying it for others. Before COVID, there were about 300 people doing medical transfers as volunteers. That's dropped to 175. We did about $190,000 in transports in 2019, and now we're doing about 130, up from 90,000. And with all of the insecurity within the Medicaid world and the threatened closures of services across the state, you know, St. Johnsbury went from 5 days a week dialysis to 2. They're talking about no dialysis in Newport. If you're poor or you're on Medicare and you can't drive at night and you have issues, where do you go? And what the attempt will be, and because I think what we're going to hear from public transit is they need people, recruiters brought in-house to help them recruit people to do that work. And I don't know where we would get it in the T-bill. So, and there is a piece of this that, given the amount of work that they do, that we can bill off to Medicaid. So it won't take the whole $1 million, but a chunk of that $1 million I want to make a claim for medical transports, because I think, you know, as we downsize the services that are out there, I think it's important that we at least give people a chance and we aren't leaving people totally behind.
Okay, so noted. So all the B900 sections we'll leave open. The whole T-bill will try to do it at once. But a lot of these are just flat changes.
Debt service, that's okay.
So now we're going to the debt service with B100s, yeah. Can't mess with debt service, so we'll close out that B1000. Yes.
Sorry, I think I missed something. So we're closing out, no, we're not closing.
Hold it.
B900s,
Okay.
we're
We're holding it
kind
off.
of leave them open, but most of them would close out. There's nothing really
Okay.
going on, a lot of these keep
So-
sales, but the overall T-bill will have some expenses, but it'll be within the T-fund. Except like this one, they wanted to take $1 million of general fund for a study on mileage-based user fees. I'm saying that we don't do that. They also have some T-funds moving to general fund for some chargers, EV chargers and ACCD. That's okay.
Okay.
That didn't show up here.
Okay, so leaving all the B900s.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll all be dealt with in the T-bill. So the 675 of debt service, closing that out. Okay, so now we get to the one-time and contingent. We skipped over AHS when we were doing this before. I assume that we are not ready to do that, and I think AHS kind of wanted to be in the room when we did that.
It would be good to have them here.
So I think we're kind of there. Are they sort of expecting it tomorrow? Okay. So we'll take on Human Services web report tomorrow.
Yay.
Just a quick question, someone refresh my memory on the municipal technical assistance program. What is that exactly?
What section?
Under
That's,
1100.
1100. Are we doing that?
I just wanna know what it is.
So,
That's the agency of administration. Are we gonna go through that or not?
These are all one-times.
Yeah. Or
The municipal tech assistance program there, that was helping towns access federal money and other support they needed. It came after the flood originally, the way I remember it.
yeah, a lot of it came out of, Agency of Transportation providing, people to give technical assistance to, town engineers and.
And I think they give money to the League of City and Towns, so they have people that are supporting them, the RPCs, the planning commissions have people that can help the towns, so it was just general assistance to the towns, but specifically around flood issues and other rebuilding.
So are these grants or just?
They were grants to those, and I think the RPCs, the VLCP, and there was somebody else that also got municipal technical assistance grants, and then so if the towns needed support for something, then they would say like, oh, you should go to your RPC, or you should go to the league, and they can help you on applying for a grant or educating your local public works department on what the issue is. I can't remember one at this point. But instead of doing the one times here, I find it kind of confusing to go through the one times in the web report.
Yeah, it's better to do the sheets.
We have the sheets. So we have two sheets that have one time. You should all have a sheet that looks like this. That lists, just lists the one times without. We also have one of those. So we also have the one times has a green top.
One times,
One time has kind of a green top. Yeah, that one. This one has this has the governors in the House. This one is just what ended up in the House still. We have one like this. So these are very similar, except it will only be on this sheet if it was the House had it in there. So, yes, Emily.
There's one more note on the one that has one in your right hand.
Yeah.
That one also has the non-general fund one times in it. The green sheet only has general fund.
Okay. So does everybody have this sheet? Still decisions. You don't have that one?
I don't,
You do have it. Well, it does have a pink line at the top. It has a salmon line at the top. So maybe we should go through this, but maybe have the other one, because the other one tells you if what the governor recommended was versus the House. And that's the one I've been taking notes on. Does that make sense? So what I'm gonna propose is that we go through this and people say whether they.
which, we're gonna go through which?
I would say we go through this one. But you can have the other sheet available so you kind of know what. And then we can go on to the other sheet for the ones that weren't in the House, which we can tell like that the House zeroed them out on this sheet. That makes sense. And then we can kind of see if we have agreement to close them out, we'll just close them out. If there's not kind of consensus, I would say we keep them on the list and we'll create a budget that just basically has everything on the list that at least one person wants, and then we'll have to say, okay, the budget's 100 million out of balance, where are we gonna cut that? So the first one, was governor's recommend, is the 1.1 for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Does anybody want to leave that open, or is everybody okay closing that up?
Can I ask, my memory is that we gave them $1 million last year.
I think that is kind of their operating costs. Surprising.
How did they spend $1 million a year?
It's several staff members, and I think the commission gets paid, the commission members, more than just per diem, they get more for their time doing all the research, because it's a big research project.
When do they end?
I think it's next year.
Next year or the year after?
Yeah. We could have them come in and talk about it.
And I'm fine with the amount. I was just wondering, is it 1.1 per year that we're?
I think so.
Okay.
That's only 3 commissioners on this?
I think there's only 2 right now.
There's 3 now, I think, because we dealt with GovOps where it had a quorum and they were all working in the same
right.
building, so we
I
had.
know
5.
Amanda Garces just came on. So maybe they had 2 and then they added her.
Well, we could have somebody come and give us more information, so we have that. Why don't we do that, just so since we don't really know what's going on there, so. We'll leave that open. I don't remember this one. Oh, this is the classification. I read the thing. I thought gasification.
Yes,
Oh,
you have to do
That's
that.
the best.
the gasification modernization project. I was like, what?
Get a bill about that.
So we're closing that one then?
Unless anybody doesn't want to. And close that one. The municipal grand list stabilization program. This is the example of one that's not on the other sheet because it has an other fund.
What line, what number you on?
3.
3. You closed 2.
Oh,
You skipped 2 or?
I skipped 3. No, I guess.
No, you're
yeah,
not. You're
no,
on
3.
the fifth.
Oh, yeah, municipal
Yeah.
grand.
Oh, he's on the other one.
$1 million. Yeah, go through this one. Yeah. So the $1 million is coming from the pilot special fund. And this is where the towns that abate property, I think only from floods, I don't think it can be for other reasons, though I don't remember. If they abated property, or if they did a buyout, not just abatement, but abatement to 0, that the town gets some money for the next 5 years, a certain amount, and then the 5 years after that, a less amount. Because right now, some towns, Barry's a good example, where people wanted their house bought out. They're like, I flooded twice, I want to take the buyout.
That's it.
And Barry said
Line 1
no,
open?
because they didn't want to lose the
The
grant.
next one's
This
closed.
would allow the towns some kind of an off ramp of the
3 now,
loss of the
right?
grant.
It's a 10-year off ramp there?
I think it's a 10-year off ramp.
Wow, it's a long time.
Mhm.
You can double.
And it's only $1 million, but I think if they get because it's just paying what the taxes on that property were, so like the owner's getting bought out, so the owner is held whole, and they leave and go build a house somewhere else. But the town of Barry maybe was getting $3,000 a year for taxes. This gives them 50% for the first 5 years and 25% for the next 5 years, something like that. So it's not a lot of money per unit.
Yeah,
That's why $1 million gets you
so much.
a decent amount of units.
Okay.
But that's what I remember, that it was, I could be wrong, though, it was 10 years.
And I
That's what I remember.
totally
remember that.
support the concept. I'm just thinking, could we do more in fewer years and be done with it? But anyway, it seems like it's been worked out.
So close that one out.
Number 3?
3. 4, public safety, cybersecurity grant match, 600,000. We didn't have them. Did you talk to them about this?
Nope. No, theirs was large enough without talking about this.
And I think,
They're gonna be in tomorrow on judiciary though, we could ask them.
this was a match from federal funds.
It is a match, it's a cybersecurity grant match. I can ask them tomorrow, they're coming in to testify if you'd like.
Okay, we'll leave it open. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to close it out. Then there was some changes in the mobile and portable radio equipment that the house did. So this is what the house did. This is public safety, 800,000. This is the one that the house lowered?
It was one, the governor recommended 9,000.
Yeah, I mean, I put that right, yeah. The governor recommended 920, and house lowered it to 800.
I'd like to discuss that one, I'd like to leave that one open.
Yeah, so we'll leave that one open. So line 6, another department, safety, the USER. The house lowered it to 475. I mean, they added 475. I think the governor.
But nothing in his budget. My recommendation on this is just me, is I'd like to put in 500,000 as a base, just leave it at that.
Is this 475 is one time, and you're recommending 500,000
As a base, yeah. This is something that, as everyone here knows, especially from Washington and Addison County, whatever else, they can't operate on a shoestring budget year to year. Like, well, this year we're gonna get $250,000. They just need a base to start with.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation there.
I'd support moving it to base.
What's that?
I would support moving it to base.
I'm gonna suggest we just leave it open just as we figure out how much we're adding to the base, but I in general support the,
It's that GovOps experience.
yeah, for
Bingo.
7, Agency of Human Services, primary care, medical home, and community health teams.
Yes,
Assume that's like a global
Yeah.
commitment kind of thing that we,
well, and, right, it's also, see, both lines, one's general and one's
oh,
federal.
right.
Yeah.
And you can't have one without the other. So I assume we can close those out.
7,
And that, the total is down,
7 and 8.
the total amount is on line 37 for that. So it's 10.8 overall when you put those lines 7 and 8 together.
Right. So just to go back, so, because I changed my system here. So the ones we have open are 8, line 5, 6, and 1. Is that, or did we leave any?
I've got 1, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, 1, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, and 4.
7, 8
Oh,
are
yeah,
closed,
sorry,
right?
right, okay. Yeah, 7, 8 we closed.
Right.
9, the fire apparatus.
Yeah. It's one of those things, you hope you don't need it, but
Yeah, I'm a
Climate
little
change is
worried
weird.
about.
Special flooding fire truck?
It's actually
Is
not.
that what it was?
It isn't actually. Teddy, when he met with us, he said that's what it was. It's a wildland fire truck. It's more for like forest fires or brush fires.
I see.
It's a
Campfire.
It's
I don't know if you've seen a brush fire truck. It really is a truck, not like a fire truck. It's like a truck.
Yeah.
It has 300 gallons of water on it.
high-powered pumps.
Some pumps.
So what are we doing in that one? Senator Watson's?
I'd keep it.
I'm supportive of the fire apparatus.
Okay, close it out.
Well,
I'd suggest that we leave the PCB testing open. And hear from, I'm still not clear on why the House has cut testing in half and remediation by almost half.
This is the testing part, yeah.
I don't understand why they're not leaving the remediation money. I know they were scrambling to find money, but their position has always been that it's underfunded substantially, and now they're cutting the governor's recommend by half. That doesn't.
And I think when they talked about the PCB testing, it wasn't to test new schools, it was like to do some continuing testing of the schools that are under remediation.
So the cut in the testing money makes sense to me. It's the other piece, the remediation.
Right. And we got a list of the specific schools that wouldn't be remediated.
Would not be.
Yeah, they're like, if you don't do this money the governor recommended, these are the schools that, they had ranges because they didn't know the exact cost.
Yeah,
So that's then 23.
so I guess,
23?
hearing from,
Some of these.
Yeah, so 23 is the
Yeah.
companion to a 10 and a
So we're
1.
leaving it open?
So if you want to, you go down and say 23 is also open.
yeah,
So at 10 and 23, right? Thank you.
Okay. The empty arms, $40,000 grant. This is something I wanted to do last year, but Jane didn't want to do.
I agree with that one.
I wanted to do it last
Yep.
year.
Yeah.
I'm good with
When
that.
none of us could get by Jane, so that's closed out.
She just didn't like the title.
It's one time. We've been reassured it really is one time. That doesn't happen.
The recovery residences, 300,000, I forgot exactly what.
Which recovery?
Oh, that one, I'm meeting with Deputy Commissioner tomorrow about that, trying to get some language and understanding of where it fits. There's $1.5 million in overall in the budget without, I think, remember we were talking about without language, supportive language, so can we leave this open for now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be supportive of doing more.
If we, well,
Because,
there is more in the,
but the House cut this
they did.
from the 1.5, and I think it's 15 replacements we heard.
Right.
Well, now, according to this sheet, VGH said the governor had 0, and the House put in 300,000.
300,000, yeah.
But maybe
Well,
the program.
There's a separate program.
Okay, well, we're leaving recovery residents open.
Okay.
Oh, thanks.
Line 13, ECF, shelter capacity expansion. Does anybody not want to have that open?
What is it?
Thank you, sir.
I mean, we've got some of this shelter stuff going back and forth. Is this the money they found in DCF, or what is this?
We have been putting in money right along for the building of permanent shelters. It's just,
This is not building a permanent shelter.
oh, what is it?
I don't think it is. I thought this was, remember we, like, last year, we put in 10 million, like, if they needed to shelter people in an emergency, like they, last April, and I think even September, they opened up some,
That's temporary shelters. This is
So-
permanent shelters.
I'm not sure it is.
We've got,
You think it is?
I
Well,
think,
let's leave it open till.
Let's leave it
Yeah.
open because the next one is the GA emergency
because
housing.
we're only at
We need to leave
a
that
little
open.
less than 700 permanent shelters, and I think we,
Right, I thought it was temporary shelters, you know?
It could be both.
Could be, right, could be, because I like, right now, they're opening those family shelters.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
talked about moving those permanent.
And then closing them down again.
Right,
Boy, this really is good.
and then open.
Okay, 13's open, 14? Do we want to keep the GA program?
Keep it open.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all part of the H91 that we'll be looking at.
Okay. Department of Corrections, Treatment Services, facility conversion for treatment facilities. This is taking one of the,
No,
not
we
of the
left it
whole
open.
prison, but one of the facilities and using it for substance abuse treatment.
Yes, that's a good one.
I don't have a problem. Does anybody object to that?
No, I don't know that there's language that goes along with it. I think that is in the public safety bill, but I'm not sure. But it's a good thing to do.
I assume there's
Is it
language.
in the public safety bill?
Didn't we?
Because I don't get the public safety bill, so I can't answer the question.
We just had them in there today too.
Did they talk about this?
I don't believe they did. It was very quick.
This is the St. Johnsbury,
It was either St. Johnsbury or another one,
or another one, right?
like a Windsor or something.
Uh,
They could use,
yeah,
convert part of it for treatment service.
yeah.
Okay, well, we just agreed to
We disagree, so.
that.
Okay,
All right.
but I would ask maybe some language.
Is there, can you look really quickly? Is there language on it?
There is?
Yep, there's language in 338.2 of the money appropriated, in the one times, shall be used to retain a consultant and develop an implementation plan to transition the Northeast Correctional Complex or Caledonia County Work Camp, or parts of either or both, to a treatment-focused facility for incarcerated Vermonters. There's some reporting.
So the 300,000 is mainly for consultants to do a report.
$200, right?
Still okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Agency of Ed,
Is there language on that one?
agency of Ed,
The 4 million?
there's only the language that the House put in. I don't think the governor had any language that I remember.
The governor, or, no, I don't think the governor had any language, and the House had language that says and it's similar to some language that was done a couple years ago around the stats that said upon, providing a plan to the joint fiscal committee, the appropriation gets released.
Okay, so they're on the hook for a specific plan. Is this the one? No,
That's they have to do a detailed, unambiguous plan,
Right.
and JFC has to approve it. So they're assuming it's not gonna happen while
Yeah.
we're here.
I'm fine then, as long as there's another citizen. Because as it stands here, it's just like 4 million for capacity building, which is,
And we don't really, I was gonna suggest we leave it open until we figure out what the whole
Okay.
education reform thing is, or know more about it.
good idea.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that 16 open. The tuition advantage program at the Vermont State Colleges.
That's at CCV.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with the bridge payment. I would like to leave the Freedom and Unity grants under 42 open, because I want to suggest a higher number than the House came up with.
Okay, so the tuition advantage program, the governor recommended is $1 million, the House cut it to 500,000.
Well, to be clear, I would like to go with the higher recommendation, so.
Of the Vermont's, all the tuition advantage program. And can you remind me which is the advantage and which is the?
Freedom and Unity, that's at Vermont State University.
Yes.
And that, the question, it does, I can't remember what level, because they came in and they gave 3 levels for this, and I think.
They're both Freedom and Unity and tuition advantage are Vermont State Colleges.
I think these are the ones under $75,000,
Are Vermont
but it
State
opens it up to Vermont
colleges.
State colleges, right?
Yeah.
One of them is this under $75,000.
Yep.
It's free. Tuition is free.
Right now, they do $75,000 at CCV. And
Well, they're part of.
the 1.5 goes for, to open a program that's like that at VSU.
Yeah.
That one I know is supported by both the state college system and VSAC to do that. I don't know about the CCV piece, whether that's supported and who's doing that or not. But
So the tuition advantage could be just.
and I can't remember what the 1.5 buys, whether it's kids 50,000 or less, but I know that.
They originally wanted 5.2
Yep.
for that, and the House reduced it to 1.5. My suggestion is that we go to 2 on the Freedom and Unity grants and 1 on the tuition advantage program. And my thinking there is, one of the ways that we've helped make Vermont State University successful is we've been supplying grants to the right affected communities, and their enrollment is increasing partially based on that. So I would like to continue that. We're ending the bridge funding this year, and we're ending the structural deficit money. So if we can give them just slightly more to keep people flowing into their.
I would, I agree with that thinking, but I would say is in the system, the place that needs the most help is Vermont State University.
True.
And
But both of those go.
as an organization, CCB is healthier.
Yes.
So we presently have baked in that we pay the tuition up to 75,000. So if we get to the end of this exercise and we're way over, that's the one that I wanna see get the money the most is the freedom and unity.
No, agreed.
Is that your thinking too?
Yeah, for sure. You know, we, in a way, we separated CCV out when we consolidated because they were so healthy, relatively speaking. So I guess if we're gonna have to prioritize down the line, that's.
But just to be clear, we're up on line 17.
Yep.
The governor, are you also recommending to go to the governor? So you're agreeing with the governor?
Yes,
You would like it to be 1 million?
yes.
1 million there,
We don't often agree.
line 17.
And on
Notice that.
freedom and unity on 44 or 40, whatever it is.
Oops, one down.
No,
And on
I'm
freedom,
looking at two different sheets.
42 is freedom and unity.
42,
There you go.
he'd like to go to 2.
yes.
Well, I'm gonna put that in, but I'm gonna keep them open just
Yeah.
since there's a change.
Is that the VHCB?
No,
No, no.
No,
Vermont Student Assistance Corporation, Freedom and Unity Grants.
We're jumping all over the place. So,
it's crazy.
And that one,
so we have 1 million on 17, so I get this straight here.
Temporarily.
Temporarily,
That is a suggestion.
that's an open, right?
and that wasn't in the governor's recommendation. Was it anything for the Freedom and Unity grant?
Freedom and unity, they were both in at 1.5 million.
I don't think it was in the government.
Oh, it wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
The change is the second 1.5.
No, you're correct, it wasn't on there.
That's an increase.
I'm looking at the wrong
But
line.
I'm working from, the original ask was over 5 million.
Yep,
And the House skinnied it down to the point where I believe VSAC's testimony is they could make a program that small work, but it's not in any way ideal or an effective program at that amount, in my opinion. So going to 2 on that is still more than 3 million less than they asked for.
Okay, so we'll keep those open.
So you're keeping what open now?
17 and 42,
17 I got, 42 is open,
open, possibly.
possibly 2 mil.
2 million.
And we can close 18, the bridge fund,
I'm okay, close.
Yeah.
because I think that was in both House and Governor.
I think,
Yes.
I think that.
It's kind of a commitment we
We've
made.
made a commitment.
Yeah.
Although you can't find future legislators, they always tell us.
So the last one is,
Not Richie, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's unbindable.
I've learned not you either, so.
Okay, we're closing at 18. 19, this is what we talked about, this operational bridge.
What is the operational bridge?
This is to help deal with the fact that hunting and fishing licenses are going down, so they.
Oh,
no
that's
longer
right.
have funding. So they're gonna hopefully
Bridge.
figure out, it's not an actual bridge. It's a metaphorical bridge. So is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
What's the other funds?
The other funds?
Yeah, it's coming from.
Oh, it's coming from not from general funds, it's coming from the.
DPS or what's that?
Fish and wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife.
It's going to.
it's going
to fish and
Wildlife.
And from there's a
Just a
fish and
dip.
wildlife fund.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah,
So
but,
we're gonna put money into it and then they're gonna draw it back out.
oh, so it's really general fund, only it goes into the fund and then now, okay.
Are they gonna come back in at any time? Or
Fish and
AHS?
wildlife?
AHS.
It's just,
Who? Never mind. I'll ask another time.
okay. So we close the bridge.
Looking for money.
Fish and wildlife, general fund, the mobile and portable radio equipment.
Mhm.
Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll close that out.
Yeah.
I think
Line 22.
Mhm.
Did you do anything with that?
the,
I know you had kids.
Yeah, so there's no positions there, but they're here.
Oh,
Which I'm actually doing these one time.
should that be, where's that on this list?
good night.
It's on, 20,
Which one are you looking at? The wastewater one?
or
No,
20,
the one we just
23.
talked about.
It's on 23.
20. Line 20 is on this.
Yeah, on this one, and 23 on that one.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. So it's the same as the governor.
Yeah, same.
Okay. So if we close that out,
Mhm.
the connections database,
Mhm.
I've been told this is
So working with.
a lot of money, but helpful.
Yeah.
With the work that the municipalities need to do.
Yep.
And the municipalities don't know what's even, so we're gonna close that out. 2021, closed out. The confined animal feeding permit changed, 850,000. It's a bummer that it's 850,000, it's supposed to not what we said we should have done years ago.
Indeed.
So does
We have a-
anybody object to closing that out? Okay,
There's a whole bill about this.
this is switching permitting of
Mhm.
large animal feeding operations
From
From-
ag to,
from
Oh,
ag to
right.
AR. They have to do new computer, it's mostly computer work, changing the database and that, right? We left 23 open already, 24,
IAJA now.
yeah.
Mhm.
This, I had a note on here about the cash fund. Is this connected to the cash fund? Maybe because the Clean Water Revolving Funds and our connection to it, I always get confused.
Row 24?
Row 24,
Yeah, so this is, this one's, I'll call it sort of technical. So this is in the like cash fund B. So this is connected to the cash fund, but this is money that went into the cash fund a couple years ago for IIJA match,
yeah.
the infrastructure job, something
Yeah.
act, whatever that was. And so this is just the intent was that these funds be available to the agency for match for IIJA in FY '26. So this just gives them the spending authority for those funds that are sitting there for this specific purpose.
So they can spend out federal funds. So we can close out 24. 25 is a limited service position. Do we know which that position was? You look at these lists, you don't get the details. The House reduced it to one position, the governor wanted two positions. Does anybody remember what these positions were?
let's close it out.
It's a housing and community development, I think. That makes sense?
Yeah,
What's that?
it is housing.
It's housing,
But it doesn't
this is
say
something that,
what it's
yeah, Senator Weston was talking about earlier.
Which one?
The line 25, Department of Housing and Community Development.
Yep.
The governor wanted two positions, the House moved it to one to 150, which, I don't know which program it is.
Yeah,
Well, let's leave it open just so we know what exactly.
yeah. And I would say the bond bank, I think these were $15 million requests.
I think the governor had it at 9, there was 215, those were for VHFA programs, the bond bank, the governor had 9, 10.
The bond bank, the governor had it 9.1 million,
And they lowered it, so
and they lowered it to 7.
I think it's a good program, I like it, but I don't know, I don't wanna close it out because I'm not sure what the dollar amount is.
And the rental revolving loan, they went to 7.5. The request was 15, I think.
The request,
There was 15.
yeah, the governor's, for both of VHFA was 15 and the House moved from 1 to 7.5.
What do we do with 20?
Do any of these relate at all to any of the
Can we close it out?
economic development bills?
Yes, they do.
So I
And,
think we should probably leave them open.
I'm looking for my
Yeah.
sheet here because
Yeah,
I think
S127
I
had
think
all.
they were
yeah,
both
that's what
They were the 3 stars on there.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're leaving 27, 28, 29 open.
that includes VHIP.
So, point of inquiry,
Yes,
what do we do with 25 and 26?
Open.
25 are also open.
Okay, thank you.
30. This is, did we ever get, is there language on this 2 million? Can you look really quick, because it's money that was going, that the governor proposed to put in the capital bill. But the House took it out of the capital bill and had to put it in the budget. Concerned that it wasn't
Capital.
good to put in the capital bill, to say. And my understanding is it's money for public infrastructure that'll help some housing projects. But I'm not 100%
The
sure.
governor didn't have any in there, that, did he?
He did have the 2 million, but he had it in the capital.
Capital bill.
Oh, capital bill.
Oh, it was, the governor had wanted 3 million. Do you have any other things to say about it?
So I think what I would say is that you need to have a conversation with, some of the institutions, I think with, as they work on the capital.
Right, we're trying to have that meeting, so we'll keep that open, because maybe it goes back in the capital bill. So 30 is open.
So this was, the department had requested 3.1 to support 3 important housing projects in Barry, Bennington, and Brattleboro, through the capital bill. The department, doesn't have an opinion where they can, but these are specific projects to those, they, would cut the grants to those 3 communities.
And is it for
They
public
would put,
infrastructure?
no, it's housing projects in those 3 specific communities.
Right, so I was told by somebody that was public infrastructure, so that the housing projects could be done.
It says here that, would put those projects at risk in those 3 communities.
Okay, well, I'll talk to the chair of institutions, we'll figure that out. So we're leaving 30 open. Universal design study,
Can I just go back to 28?
you can,
Is that what we were calling the missing middle?
Yeah.
people do call
Yep,
it that,
that-
yeah.
So I'm okay at this point with that, but if we do get into a situation where we're seriously strapped, that program has always seemed to me super expensive for the number of units we get from it. I get the philosophy behind it, that we need to be creating housing at all levels, lower level, middle level, et cetera. But that 10 million, I think if I'm remembering the numbers right, it would be striking how few things that's actually gonna put on the market.
Well, yeah, it's around ownership of the.
Yeah. So I just flag it, we may come to a point at some point where we're scrambling for $5 million. And if that 10 million is still there, I would be for taking another look at it.
Okay.
Not that we don't need housing, not that it's not a crisis, but it's just because you're subsidizing at both ends.
Well, I would say, in what the House did in the missing middle, the rental revolving loan fund, which they, that was, initial ask was for, 15 million and they went to 7.5. That's quite a very effective program to get, rental units online for people, and for at least a period of time where they owe the money, they have to make it low income. And it's a very effective program to get stuff online. So the bang for the buck there is,
Better.
yeah.
And then I'm also kind of combining those two. When VHFA was here, they talked about it would be great if they had some flexibility, how things go between those two, especially if one gets reduced too far. So I'm okay with giving them a chunk of money and saying that it gets spent
So-
on the two
But
programs.
these are still all part of the economic development.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, it's all economic development.
We will.
And, you know, VHFA said, and I'll just give a pitch, the rental revolving loan fund was their most effective program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
And
they're all open.
Yeah.
For now. We'll also see what,
We can have them come in and talk about what the 10 million is gonna
Yeah.
actually buy.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was first hearing about the program, they were doing a pilot, and I forget, they spent a few $1 million.
they did 10 million. The first
Yeah.
pilot, first tranche was 10 million.
What did they get?
And was the most efficient funding to create new houses over the past year. They did 287 units with 10 million.
and Mara wasn't here the other day talking about it, but don't have the details.
Well, we do have somebody from here sitting here.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll get that offline. Although I do, Chad, do you know anything about the universal design study? Do you know anything about that?
Chad Simmons, Vermont Housing Finance Agency, yeah, it was included in the House Housing Bill, H 479. And that would bring together a number of different folks from the affordable housing development sectors and building sectors to look at what, including universal design standards into Vermont's housing code, and including those from that building code, what that would look like. So it's a study committee that would be full.
Talk about putting those universal design principles into building codes.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And it's not related to energy codes, building energy codes at all.
Correct, although we've encouraged that committee to ensure that energy folks would be included in work. They all work hand in hand. So it would include a broad range, the study committee would include a broad range of folks.
Okay. Does anybody not want to close that out, the 15K? Let's say we close that out. Economic development, the Vermont Professional Color Network. The governor had recommended 250,000 in the House. Cut it to 200. We haven't taken any testimony on this.
It's also in the economic development bill, I forget which one.
It is?
I think it is. I'm not positive. I think when it was, we saw it in here.
I mean, I think they did mention it a little bit, but
Yeah.
how do people want to keep it open or close it out?
Okay, we're closing it.
Okay, close it out. So this is the additional 5 million. The governor didn't have any extra money beyond the property transfer tax amount to BHCV, and the House put another 5 million. And say we'll keep that open. This is, we try to balance things. I would like to try to give them more, but you never know. This is treasurer's request from general funds for tax assistance. I don't remember did the House add this in? Because I remember the treasurer's office talking specifically about this ask.
House put in 150,000.
Yeah, 100, so yeah, 148.
Governor had nothing in.
Governor and nothing.
Yeah. I know it helps Vermonters to do taxes, but I don't.
Don't have like
I'm gonna leave it open.
H&R Block and stuff like that helps Vermonters do taxes.
They do something.
What did you say? Leave it open?
Leave it open because I want to talk to the treasurer's office
Yeah, that's.
with all the other things that they're asking for, which their priority is. Okay. Health access, comprehensive payment reform.
Yes. These are all important to, our healthcare reform initiatives.
It's kind of like you have to do them, or like,
Yeah, well, yes, and we'll bring recommendations on them from committee anyway.
do you
The
want
one time,
to close them, or
yeah, I would say we could close them right now.
is because there's not like, you can't do only part of it.
No.
So we're closing what?
35 and 36. And that's,
And then
the
37
governor also.
is with the other one. Yeah.
No, the governor didn't have those. But that was that
Part of it,
the information timing?
yes, yeah.
Or did the governor oppose? Oh, he didn't put anything in the letter.
No, I don't think he opposes it. And part of it is filling in the gap with what's happening without a head, with a head.
Is
With a
that
head. It's the fiscal year 26 where we don't have funding for primary care from the current model. So it fills the gap.
so that 3.1 million helps
Yes.
fill the gap till we get to ahead?
Very important. Otherwise, we'll lose primary care practices again. Don't do that.
When we get through this, I'm gonna have a couple of things that I wanna to add to the list.
Yeah,
And,
that's
yeah.
the next step.
Yeah, and I'll be bringing some in too, yeah.
Global commitment funds, 10.8 million.
That goes with
Yeah,
lines 7 and 8.
Yeah, go
The
ahead and
match,
do that.
yeah, that's the match.
The tech hub, 750, the House added this in, the governor didn't have anything, I don't think.
I don't know what it is, but I've questioned it already on UVM here. What's the tech hub? I'd have to,
This was gallium arsenide or something, it's about, I think it's around new chip manufacturing and microelectronics, kind of using different new technology, that's my understanding.
And helping startups in this new technology. So, that piece, they were asking for $1 million for that and $1 million for the cancer center, the cancer research. What I discussed with them was accepting the 750 for the tech hub and trying to get 750 for the cancer research. And my thinking there is that they are slated to use grant money in the cancer research side. So in other words, it would be 1.5 in one times to UVM.
Are we, the program that we had for, to buy down tuition for medical students for primary care to stay here, is that gone?
I'd have to check. I haven't talked with anybody about that recently.
Yeah, I heard that the money for that program was gone. It's one of the, we're woefully short of primary care doctors around the state. That, and there's an initiative called Maple Mountain
Right.
that is bringing residents here and getting them planted in the community. And over a 3-year period to get this started, then they would, it would pay for itself.
So we'll be bringing a recommendation in on the Maple Mountain program because it does sound very promising for
And
primary
that's
care.
a UVM?
No, that's not UVM,
No,
but the
that's not.
UVM piece is they pay the tuition. And if they stay here, it's, a forgivable.
Let me look into that, and if we can,
I'll leave the.
Because if that's going, I think that's.
Leave UVM
that's-
open and maybe we'll
that's
fill in
bad.
that.
Okay, we'll leave the University of Open Tech Hub, the other cancer centers not on the sheet, that would be something we talk about adding. So that UVM is open, so, cash crop for, as a sub-grant to NOFA for 300,000, the governor had nothing.
yeah, I've met with them on a couple different occasions, obviously. They want more, but
They asked for
I
500,000.
asked for 500, yeah.
Well, we'll leave it open because I've talked to Ag about giving a priority list for all the food.
I'm gonna call
Well,
Ag.
and Ag did have that request in for how many?
7 million.
7 million.
And then they have another one that's not on here for the money that was lost to the school, farm to school program with the feds cut,
Yep.
1.8 or something. So the food bank, this 500,000 too, will leave open, and I think we should kind of talk about the food programs all together.
There's a bunch of them. And, you know, the report in the news is that the food shelves all got cut, by the feds this past week.
Home share. The House added this in, the governor didn't have anything, I'm okay closing it out, but
Yes. Sure. Who's is that?
41, we'll close that out.
Oh, that's Dale. That's
Dale,
Senator
Westman.
Westman. But I would support it.
The submarine support group, USS Vermont. People
Worth every
okay?
penny.
Okay,
Did you skip over 42?
We left it open.
Open, oh,
yeah, we did that earlier.
That was the freedom and unity stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Grants. The Vermont Council on the Arts additional federal match, I think we can close that out. Agency of Transportation, I say that we don't do this.
I've got a replacement.
Well, yeah, so this, if we don't do it, then you have a replacement.
I got a replacement for it.
So, is that okay with you, Brian?
absolutely. What are we doing?
For 45, the quorum of the Transportation Committee is saying we're just not gonna do this. I mean, we're not gonna do it out of general fund. We're gonna take that $1 million out.
And I wanted to move that off to January 1st.
Yeah,
Because
27?
they can't guarantee me.
That's 45.
Done.
so that's 45 is just
That's 45.
struck.
46?
46, this is gonna be in the T-bill, that's fine, we can close it out. It's T-fund money. The Department of Labor's Advanced Vermont. Don't think we need to do this. I don't know if anybody thinks that we should or we leave it open, because we can ask, economic development if it's on their list.
I remember this one. I don't remember if it's on your list.
Okay, so we'll leave 47 open.
I was gonna close it, I was gonna say no.
Almost
I
close.
was gonna say, take it out.
Capital and essential investments, this is the cash fund. So we'll leave this open because we need to have a conversation with Senator Harrison and that committee about, this was, the governor at 17 million to this, I think. So, in their letter, they were mad about it. Okay,
Can I just, one other, addition to this?
okay, so the next thing we do, we've gone through all the one-times. This, we did not go through all the base changes. So we could either add, we could talk about adding our one-time. Let's do that first. And then we'll talk about the base list probably tomorrow. Do you want to do it right now or do you want to take a break?
Whatever you wanna do.
I
I'll make some
sense
phone
the
calls.
chair is ready to break.
Huh?
I sense that the chairman.
No,
is
we
ready
could
to
just
break.
either keep going or we could take a break to.
Never keep going.
Oh,
I wouldn't mind a
I think
break.
we should
my
take a
mantra.
break.
okay, so we'll take a break.